Welcome to the In My Opinion Show with Ronald Barry Robinson and friends. Seen on the internet 24 hours, 7 days a week. To view, please go to Facebook and or YouTube. In the search field, type in capital letters RBRIMO to view our catalog of shows. Let me introduce my talented co-hosts. First we have Mr. Henry Hatter.
Hi, Ron.
Welcome to the In My Opinion Show, Mr. Hatter.
Thank you.
Next we have Miss Jackie Williams. Welcome to the In My Opinion Show.
Thank you.
We're so delighted to have you on the show.
Thank you.
A welcome from me as well, Jackie.
Thank you, Mr. Hatter.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about data mining by the U.S. government. Snooping by the U.S. government. That's what it is. There's been so much talk here lately about the U.S. government infringing on citizens' rights like never before, and calling people that have disclosed certain information tantamount to terrorists, and charging them with espionage and things of that nature. There's so much lying going on in the government. I wish more people would come out and expose these lies. The American people need to know what the hell is going on, because it's the American taxpayers' dollars that are paying these folks, whether they're politicians or appointed officials or employees, okay, to keep these secrets from the American public, and I think it's very detrimental. Mr. Hatter, what are your thoughts?
Well, there's nothing that could be more damaging to a sitting president or to Congress or to the American people than spying in on the American people. They resist it. I could even say they hate it, in strong words. Our free and democratic society is based on freedoms that disallow these kind of tactics by government. Because people in the beginning, under constitutional government that deems that the people have a right to be safe from coercion, intrusion, and intimidation by government. But there are two sides to this issue. And both of them are equally weighty. Now, if you go back to 1863, my most favorite president, who is Abraham Lincoln, he suspended these rights at a time when he had only 23% loyalty in this country. And that was a time when there were many competing factors and entities who wanted to see the American states fall. There were entities like Canada and Russia and France and Germany and Spain and all of those entities that were here, the American Indians. And so did the South. And so did some of the people on the North. And of course, African Americans, the same way, they all fit into this mold that caused quite a bit of dissension from the President of the United States, who alone decided that he had to suspend these rights. Not only habeas corpus, but the rights, and he had to spy on people. So in the last analysis, he can get kind of some traction to save the country as a united state of America. And many people didn't like it, but it was probably the best thing that the president could have done at that time. This was also suspended in 1940 during the Second World War. I don't remember what year. Parts of it were suspended. And for a good reason. There was no way that we could have known who was loyal to the United States when we were fighting Germany and Japan. And we had constituencies in this country that belonged to both. So they isolated these people. It's a bad thing to do, but it may have been the right thing to do too. Because somebody has to be responsible for maintaining the maintaining the United States as a duly constituted nation without challenge from within or without. That's the tough decisions that the presidents have to make. So I can see that in this case where President Obama is involved in this, this is a very grave thing to be involved in. It will probably hurt his legacy to some degree because Americans just dislike it. They can find no justification for it, even though Lincoln had suspended it and Truman had suspended, or Roosevelt, one or the other. So, but in all cases, Americans should not trust government, period. Americans need to have that oversight of government because government is made up of people, just like we are.
Mm-hmm.
We give only limited loyalty to anything. So some things have to be done corporately. You have to demand or you have to force people to do it. And in this case, I'm glad that Americans are disjointed by this. But they need to know that there are times, under circumstances, when you need to suspend these rights. But we should never go with blinders on and think that they should not be suspended, because we have enemies within and we have enemies without.
But you know, the government deliberately creates terror and terrorism.
We're not talking about terrorism.
Okay. Well, no, but that's probably going to be coming up.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And you know, anytime you're scared, okay, and if you're getting this information from those that you think are in leadership roles, all right. For conversation purposes, we'll use the president, all right. When breaking news, you know, president states such and such and such and such, all right. Look at the bullshit that Bush did, all right, in terms of Iraq, all right, weapons of mass destruction. We're still looking for them, all right. Scaring folk, all right. Bombs are, you know, atomic bomb is gonna, hydrogen bomb or whatever is gonna, you know, it's gonna.
Security going up, going down every day.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
See, so we have to be diligent, all right, in our thinking process. And like I tell my daughter, don't believe everything you see on TV or everything that you read, all right, because that's human elements behind all of this stuff. They have think tanks, all right, just to create models for terror, all right. It's no different than I'll use this as an example. Now, the car industry, they've got models now probably for the next 20 years that we're going to be seeing. So you got people thinking, you know, proactively about what's the next step or what are we going to do, you know what I mean? So you got the same thing, you know what I mean, whether it's private institutions that are doing this, you know, that are involved in these think tanks, or the government in these think tanks. You got universities doing all of this kind of stuff, all right? So you got to be cognizant of these things. What is your thoughts, Jackie?
Well, I mean, you brought up a very good point, Mr. Hatter, regarding the two sides, but I guess I'm looking at it from two sides. I don't want to be spied on as an American, but also I guess I'm concerned because you said we need to be aware. Yes, we do need to be aware, but I'm concerned that some of the things that they're spying are actually finding stuff, and I'm concerned as to why we're finding so many plots of terrorism where people are communicating with people overseas and they're showing them how to do bombs and all of these kind of things that would hurt us. So instead of properly spying on us, how about we shut down some of these openings where people are able to go on the internet and find how to make a bomb? I mean, what is that going to help you do besides hurt someone? You know, some of that information should not be available.
Well, that's the internet. If we didn't put it on, somebody else would. The internet is the source of all knowledge.
Yeah, but there's no control.
No, the internet is not meant to be controlled. It's
But it
just a
should
source
be.
of knowledge.
It should be controlled to a certain point, especially when you can go on there and they've traced it back to being able to go right on YouTube and find every piece of step of how to terrorize this and how, I mean, that's just not good at all. So just to eliminate the spying thing, why don't we eliminate the sources?
But then, and I understand, I hear where you're coming from, but you do some of the very same things that you do when you alter the freedom of press or the freedom of speech and all of that stuff. That those are inalienable rights. The right to knowledge is everybody's right to have knowledge. The internet is the source of that. And everybody puts information on it. Everybody draws information. And that internet causes us to grow as human beings.
But I use your word. You said that everything has to have rules and regulations.
Oh, I agree with you.
So,
but that is one that's unregulated.
but it needs to be,
But
I mean,
our
not
rights-
saying controlled, not controlled, but regulated where
Yeah.
some information should not reach there.
But then you'd have to start messing with the Constitution. You know what I mean?
See, here we don't mess with the Constitution.
And
But you mess-
and there's, I think therein lies the problem. You
Yeah,
know
I
what
think
mean?
so.
Because if you start whittling away this, this in the Constitution, then somebody else is going to want to, delete this, and then and then when does it stop?
And see, bomb making is very simple. All you need is just 3 compounds. And that's
But
stuff
everybody
that-
don't know what the compounds are until you go and YouTube it, and then you
No,
find
you
out.
don't.
Well,
You
let's not
probably have it
let's not
already.
tell what
I'm
the
not going to say
compounds
what
are.
I'm not going to say
You know
what
what
it
I
is,
mean?
but it's found in your home.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or in the barn or the.
But okay, on the internet also, if you publish something that is in violation with the site that you publish it on, they'll remove it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why can't they do it? Because Facebook will remove it.
Yeah.
YouTube will remove it.
Yeah.
If it's damaging, they'll remove it.
Yeah, they can remove it, but the internet, they don't control the internet though.
But I mean, they control the contents of what's going on their
Through
side.
through their.
So that's snooping too. You know what I mean? All right. So it's not, it's not. So they're depriving other. In my opinion, they're also depriving you of freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what Mrs. Williams is talking about is the threat to civilization through all this information, which is you can go on the internet and figure out how to make an atomic bomb.
Yes.
And by the way, Ron, you did say something that was probably questionable.
Okay.
Iran did laugh at the United States because they said they had the bomb. They had the precursors. And the Americans didn't know what was going on. And so did Korea, when Bush called them the evil empire.
Mm-hmm.
But we now know that their guess or their investigation proved out to be right. They just didn't have all the evidence. But they found precursors. And now, you see what Korea's done. They fired off a couple bombs to show the United States that I dare you guys to test me. So, and this is a case where all of the stuff on the internet, you're exactly right. That people can use that and use it for illegal and things that could be harmful to all of us. But unfortunately, since we don't control those jurisdictions, we as Americans can't say anything.
Well, also too, speaking about Korea, especially North Korea, the United States is not going to mess around with North Korea. No way, no how. You know what I mean?
Anybody will mess with anybody today. With the weapons that we have.
Because China is their babysitter. All right.
Right.
They got a billion boots on the ground right now. You know what I mean?
Easy to kill a billion boots.
Well, yeah, but you drop a bomb, I guess, from 5 miles up.
We hope that never happens.
Exactly.
But I think this is a timely and rightful subject that we will discuss for a long time, and I hope that you will still fight against issues, Iran, and that we as a show always resist people who spy on Americans. And you know, it's amazing. I would think that people of color would be the most adamant about being spied on. You know, because there are so many things in our past that suggested that we were unduly treated when people spied on us. They even put things in our pockets if you went into a grocery store or into a home. Because I remember hearing this from my parents about if you went into a store that had a charge account, and you weren't spending enough money, or they wanted to increase their revenue, they put something in your pocket and said that, oh, see, what have you got here? And then they called the police. They said they threaten to call the police if you don't agree, if you challenged it. Otherwise, you had to pay for it. And they put it on your account. And they kept you in debt. Wow. You might have to do some investigation on that. I'm certain that if you do some investigation through colleges and universities, Southern colleges and universities may corroborate that story. But I would be surprised that many of us don't like that. And I remember when we were kids walking along the the creek there to Whittier, that the police would come along and say, "Hey, Anns, get off of that creek." Now, the kids are walking along the creek on the ice, and you know, we could fall in, but it's only 2 or 3 feet of water. The police had the rights to do this, to order us off the creek. But to go out of their way to make that an issue for kids who were walking along the Gilkey Creek. You know what Gilkey Creek is? Mm-hmm. Toward Flint. Now, that was like spying on you. And all of the spying that went on in the time of Medgar Evers and Martin Luther King and all of those are times gone, and we're glad that they're gone. But you should never forget that spying is one of the things that should never happen to us again. Like the Holocaust should never happen to the Jews again.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. But you know, we live and both of you alluded to the fact that we live in a very complex world now. And I've mentioned this on our show before, and a lot of this America's brought on themselves. Okay, now whether it be Syria, whether it be North Korea, whether it be China, Russia. I mean, that's just to name a few. Okay. When you murder millions of people, okay, you gotta expect some retribution.
Right.
All right? Because I'm sure these people have mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and friends and aunts and uncles and stuff. They love them just as dearly as we love ours, all right? And when you drop a bomb from 5 miles up, all right, and just shatter people's worlds, all right, you better believe there's going to be a lot of anger.
Right.
Okay? A lot of anger. And, in different ways, we're seeing the chickens coming home to roost. All right? Whether it be the marathon thing or the Oklahoma situation, it's happening, in different spots all around the country. Okay? Before, it was in another country. We'd see it on the 6 o'clock news or something. Now, I mean, we're inundated with this stuff almost every day. All right? And I think that we've come to accept it, which is wrong. All right? You don't accept this snooping. Maybe Orwell was right. You know what I mean? Big Brother's watching. This was back in 1984. Okay, he was right on the mark. Okay, and in my opinion.
But Ron, despite of all of the despair and the things that we're discussing that we've discussed today, there are some things that are moving in the right direction.
Well, there is hope. Absolutely.
We are getting better. We are Americans, and I'm going to speak specifically for African Americans. things are not the way they used to be. We have grown some. We've grown as a nation, and I have grown as a culture. Not as fast as we should be growing, but we nevertheless have moved. And it is now, by 2050, it's our chance to put ourselves on the map as real leaders in a world with growing population and declining resources. We will be collectively one half of the leadership of this country, along with the Hispanics. More than 50% of the population, the voting population, will be Hispanics and African Americans. Therefore, we will have the political majority in this country. But we got to know how to use it.
Right.
We got to learn to be better judges and not so biased in how we look at things. We got to look at them realistically, because the way we're moving now, with so many kids becoming racially integrated through marriages and stuff, we need to change our focus and our attitudes and get our kids ready to assume the leadership roles that they would have by 2050. We got to, do more to find solutions along with white Americans. We need to know what discussions we ought to be having right now to prepare for this paradigm shift.
Mm-hmm.
Hispanics need to be at the table to talk about what it is we ought to be doing in order to greet this paradigm shift. And African Americans need to talk about it. Then we need to bring it together with the right people at the platform, because everybody is not the right person.
That's right.
People who want to have a new vision and want to work together.
We're going to change gears here. Students in Texas face jail time if they skip school. Is it too harsh? Students who live in the state of Texas can be fined, required to appear in court, and even sent to jail if they skip school. The crime is being called truancy, which literally means failure to attend. According to news reports, the origins of this treatment goes back to the mid-1990s when the Texas State Legislature designated truancy as a Class C misdemeanor, meaning that children could be tried as adults for missing school. Last year, the state of Texas prosecuted 113,000 truancy cases, collecting nearly $3 million in fines. That sum covers about half of the court's operating costs, and if students don't pay, they face trial, more court fees, and even jail time. I think this is something that you're involved in the school system,
Sure.
Henry. I'm just wondering if this would be something that maybe the state of Michigan should be looking into, because there's so much truancy going on. All right, but not just the kids. Don't just knock the kids. Put them parents' asses in jail too. All right.
Good question. We're discussing that, and we have discussed it for a long time. The state of Michigan do have reinvigorated truancy laws, and there's not a noble reason why we need to have all of these kids in school, but it helps to fund our school district for the rest of the kids. We get paid $7,000 per child. That shows up 180 days a year, or close to it. But when kids are truant, and they were likely to be threatened with funding. So we have to keep the kids in school. And I subject to you that many kids don't want to be there. Many kids don't want to be there. And when they're there, they're disruptive. And they control the classrooms. The public doesn't get a chance to look what's inside the classroom. What you need to do, and school districts are not going to let you inside the classroom. You're a threat along with any active shooter. Anybody who has no business in the school, there are policies that discourage you from going and sitting in the classroom and observing. So Americans will never know the kind of conflict that's evolving with education, and where we need to go in education so that we make the dollars available, which are rapidly drying up because we're becoming a poor nation. And we can't forever fund kids at the rate that we're going. So what we have to do is look at separating kids into those who want to go to college and who do well on SATs and MEP scores and ACTs, and decide among those and their aspiration interests who should be.
You think that's fair?
Yes, it is.
I mean, because I look at my son graduated from Beecher. When he graduated, there was 300 kids that graduated. This year, they had 65. So what does that say to our economy? What does that say to our race? What does that say to our neighborhood and our environment? What are the rest of the kids doing? Are they out there committing crimes? What are they doing? So I'm back to what Ron said. We need to hold people accountable because
Oh yeah, by
all the kids
means.
in China are going to school, whether they want to go or not. And so they're going to come over here and take over everything that we have here.
That's
We're
the
not going to
intent.
have anything to offer because
You
we're
may be-
so busy giving them choices.
Yeah.
We're done with choices. We need to make them
We're on
go
the same
to school.
page.
We need to make them go to school. And if your mother is on aid, you need to be in school or your check will not be in the mail.
With that, we must bring this
Hey,
show
good.
to a close, unfortunately. This has been a great conversation. This is Ronald Berry Robinson for the In My Opinion show saying, stay focused.